Alrighty, good morning, seventh graders. This is Mrs. Oliver bringing you today's lesson 2-5 of percent of change. Now, these will go a little bit differently than what we have been doing. Okay, so we already know how to use proportions to solve percent problems. Now we are going to solve problems involving percent increase and percent decrease. Type of problems you'll see is that you first bowl a 43 followed by a 72. What is your percent increase? Okay, this will get you to multi-step problems that involve percent applications, example as percent of error. Okay, so then this is going into your textbook. Okay, not your textbook, but your notebooks. We're on page 60 of your notebook, right after yesterday's sales tax markups and discounts. All right, so this is where your notes begin. A percent of change is a ratio that compares the change in quantity to the original amount. If the original quantity is increased, is a percent of increase, whereas if the quantity is decreased, there is a percent of decrease. And when you give your answers today, you have to identify which one is an increase and which one is a decrease. So the way that we find that is we have to take the change, what is the difference between the two numbers given, and then divide it by our original amount. Okay? And then we can use our percent proportions. Remember, percent is always over 100. Okay? So here we're given the problem 20 to 24. We need to find the amount of increase or decrease. Okay, so what did we change from when we went from 20 to 24? Well, remember, whenever you take a difference, you take the larger number minus the smaller, and we get that there's a change of 4. Okay, so the amount of change over our original amount. So the amount of change, so we have 4 is our amount of change, and what was our original amount? Well, we started with 20, so that is my original amount. So then we have to take our 4 and divide it by 20. Remember, the top number always goes into the thing. All right, so 20 can't go into 4, so we had to add a decimal and a 0, but 20 can go into 40 twice. Now that is a decimal. Remember, this is where those conversions come in play. How do we change a decimal into a percent? We have to take 2 hops or multiply by 100. All right, so that means we have a 20%. And then is this an increase or decrease? Did our numbers go up or down? Well, 20 to 24 is an increase. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, find the percent of change in the cost of gasoline that goes from 189, so that's our original, to 295. Round to the nearest whole percent. So remember, step 1, find the change. Okay. So that means I have to take my 295 and subtract 189. All right, so I can't borrow from that. So this becomes an 8. There's a 6, 0, and a 1. So remember, there's always change over your original. So 106 over 189 as my original. Then we divide. You'll get a decimal, and we turn that into a percent. Okay, so 106 divided by our 189. When I get this in the calculator, this is what it looks like. Okay, and then we have to move our decimal over twice because basically we're multiplying by 100. And the whole percent is just this part. The 0 is not going to push this up. So we have a 57%. And then did we go up or down? Well, we went up, so it's an increase. All right. Last example. Tony bought a DVD recorder for $280. Now is on sale for $220. Find the percent of change in price. Round to the nearest whole percent. So we have to take our 280 minus 220, which is a difference of 60. So that goes on top of our fraction there. And our original amount this time is the 280. So now we got to take our 60 and divide it by 80. And we get 0.75 in the calculator. So I have to move my decimal to get 75%. But this time it is a decrease. Okay, because I went from a larger number to a smaller number. All right, let's go to the next part. All right, percent of change. There is guided practice on 149 before you get to your homework of 1 through 15 on 147. Let's look at some of the guided practice. Okay, so what is from 30 to 24? I can already tell you, I know this is a decrease. Okay, so if you need to, automatically put your percent sign and put your decrease. All right, so 30 minus 24 equals 6. So what is 6 divided by 30? And then you make your decimal into a percent. So 6 divided by 30 is a 20% because we get 0.2. So it's a 20% decrease. What about number 2? I know it's a increase because I got to a bigger number. And then 150 minus my 126, this becomes a 4, so 24. So now I gotta take 24 and divide it by my first number, because that's your original. And what we get in our calculator is 0.1904. Move your decimal over twice, and we have a 19% increase. This is percent of error. We're not doing percent of error. All right, explain how two amounts of change can be the same, but the percent of change can be different. All right, so take a minute, think about that one. All right, so explain how the two amounts of change can be the same, but the percent of change can be different. So basically it ties in together that the change, the amounts of change are different. Oops. So then, oh my goodness. Having technical difficulties. Sorry, guys. There, no, in this box. So then, the percent of change are different. So there we go. So they go in together. So if your original amounts given are different, then that means your percent of change is going to be different. Okay. All right. So then you have homework that you are doing for these problems. Okay. Make sure you're going through each one and doing everything that you need to get done. I want to see if we have yesterday's on here. No. Okay. All right. So have a great day. And if you have any questions, email your teacher.